we take a stance because of what a tragic event that happened. However, we invite people. We're telling people if you come here and come here peacefully. We're not telling you not to come. We just want you to be able, if you do come, to exercise your right to peaceful assembly, and you can do that here, to voice your opinion and voice it loudly as you want to, but do it in a peaceful manner. And it's easy to do that. You can shout loudly, but do it peacefully. So we want people to do that if they want to come here and see all the other things that Brunswick has to offer too. Our community is a close-knit community. It's not stretched out. I mean, it's a close-knit community. And one incident does not depict our community. One incident happened, tragic, but we will deal with it. I can't tell what's going to happen in someone else's mind, what they would do. But we're asking and we're praying that when you come here for a reason. The reason is to seek justice and to voice your opinion peacefully. That's what we're all here for. When you seek justice, whatever the incident is or whatever it is, justice will prevail.
Let me bring in for some more analysis former District Attorney George Brockler, standing by in Denver, Colorado. He also teaches trial advocacy and trial attorney, and former prosecutor Sue Ann Robinson, standing by in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Great to have you both this afternoon. Tell me, we know that this case is taking place in the county where the incident occurred. And sometimes with these high-profile cases, we see a big push for a change of venue. But here that really wasn't the case. I can remember Kevin Goff, who represents William Roddy Bryan, saying very early on at the outset of this case, we'll take the first 12. We want the people of Glenn County to be hearing this case. And so I want to just kind of get your thoughts on that, the fact that this case is where the incident occurred and how that affects the jury selection process. Sue Ann, I'll go to you first, if I may, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Making a great point that the defense attorney from the beginning felt like he was going to get a fair and impartial jury from the community, a group that's obviously exposed to all the issues in the case, including the issues that the media doesn't see, which is ongoing issues caused by this case. We have to remember, this is a case where there was a district attorney that was actually indicted based on the initial way the case was handled. So it really has affected the community. So I think, the defense attorney saying, just give us the first 12 may have been his initial reaction and response, but I'm not sure that that's the case today. I think he's really gonna want to dig into that voir dire, dig into that jury deselection, as my co-guest stated, and really find people who can be fair and impartial. I think the world has changed, obviously, over COVID and in a post-George Floyd verdict environment where it's okay to call a spade, even if you are a juror member can say, I think that the facts and the way this event happened is unreasonable, and whether or not the person's color played into it will be a matter for the Department of Justice. But I absolutely think that the defense is rethinking that initial reaction of let's just get the first 12 for sure.
I agree with you, Sue Ann, especially when we were seeing this morning them talking about the strikes, and they want some more strikes to be able to use, and the judges giving them each 3 additional ones. So in total, the state would have 12 and each defendant would have 8 to exercise. And by strike, we hear the big fancy word peremptory challenge, is just meaning you can get rid of someone on that panel for any reason. Just can't be a discriminatory one. So you could say you don't like the person's shoes, or they don't make eye contact with you. George, tell me, for these prosecutors, I think this is really tough because they're coming from Cobb County, so they're coming from the northern part of Georgia, heading south to the very tip there of the state to Brunswick to try this case. And we saw Linda Dunikoski, who is the senior ADA, who I think is going to be the star of this trial. I'm just going to make a prediction right now because in the motions hearings, wow, I found her to be very impressive. But she was telling the judge if it's possible, she would like that distinction to be made for this panel being brought in to say, hey, just so you know, we're not that initial agency who, let this case fall through the cracks. We're being brought in to prosecute it. Do you think that's fair for the jury to know that these are not attorneys who serve in this particular county?
Boy, that's tough. I really do understand and appreciate why they would want that distinction. But remember, who is prosecuting the case should not be a factor in this case at all. And they can ferret that out in jury selection. But, it's wrong without their permission for people to expose the jury to the fact that it's the public defenders representing someone because of the concern that they may hold some grudge against the indigent person or look at them differently. This is interesting. It's like saying, Judge, we know there's a lot of outside information here that may have somehow impacted this jury. We want to just rush ahead of it and announce we're not them. I think the judge isn't wrong to do it, but I don't think he's compelled to do it. And this, by the way, is a pretty strong judge, and I agree with you on the prosecution. She seems pretty strong, pretty sharp, pretty fast. I'm anxious to see how she pulls this off. But it is interesting to me that the defense is prepping the battlefield the way it is. And that clip that you played to Janae, where the defense attorney sat down and just vomited up their entire defense and theory of the case, I have questions as an attorney about whether that runs afoul of what we call an ethics rule 3.6, because you're not supposed to sit down and just in a place outside the courtroom and dictate sort of this is how we're going to see the case, this is how we're going to pitch the case because of the impact it could have on the jury. That may be a direct response to what your guest said about their rethinking their strategy about the jury, that they said, hey, we'll take the first 12 that comes in. It's an interesting thing that they've done.
Right. I'm so glad you brought that up, George. I was sharing with our producer of the show, our line producer, Valerie Thurman. We were talking last week about why is it that, sometimes on cases that we see that become very high profile, we see defense attorneys giving interviews. Prosecutors are more reluctant to do it. And I was saying, well, because of the heavier ethical constraints. George, you, Sue Ann, you both know this from having served as prosecutors. You got to follow those rules. But the model rules of professional conduct, as you pointed out, citing one, George, they apply to everyone, and you can't try your case in the media, taint the jury pool potentially. So you make a really great point. I feel like we could do a whole Court TV hour just based on this, the ethical considerations that attorneys have to be following when they speak out, especially on a case like this one. You don't want to create issues for appeal if you're if you're a prosecutor and looking to get a conviction. That's why I think we see them rarely seeking the limelight. We're still waiting. We're getting a note from one of our field producers that the big pool of prospective jurors, those folks who've received their summons in the mail to come to jury duty, they're entering the room where the big group voir dire is going to take place. So just want to make everybody aware of that. We can't go in just yet. But we want to play another clip from the mayor, Mayor Harvey, there in Brunswick, Georgia, talking to Court TV. And in this clip, he's talking about the trial, what lies ahead, and saying that the focus really needs to be on justice.
A tragic event happened here in our community. But that doesn't depict who or what our community stands for. We know that. And I imagine to believe that you all know that as well. And it seems that we are being painted with a broad brush as to what's going to happen and all this and things that happen here in our community. And that's not the case. We know we want justice for Ahmaud. Let's focus on the trial. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on people have the right to assemble. People have the right to voice their opinion. Let's focus on those things. Let's not focus on violence. Let's focus on love, as young man said. Let's do that. That's what we need to do. I think here in our community, we are together, a community of togetherness. Let's continue to do that. We have shown before in the past that we know how to do that. And I said it before, we know what to do. And we know that we can do these things. But it takes our whole community and people coming into our community as well. Come here peacefully.